The restraining order revealed 7 other victims. The manila envelope trembled in my hands as I sat in the courthouse parking lot, staring at the building where I'd finally filed a restraining order against Marcus. 3 months of sleepless nights, 47 documented incidents, and a phone filled with screenshots had led me here. I'd rehearsed my testimony a dozen times, but my voice still shook when I practiced saying his name out loud. The automatic doors whooshed open at 8:47 a.m. sharp, and I walked straight to the clerk's window before I could lose my nerve. The woman behind the glass, her nameplate read Patricia Santos, had kind eyes that seemed to recognize the particular brand of exhaustion I wore. Restraining order? She asked gently, and I nodded, sliding my carefully organized folder across the counter. Marcus Chen, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I have documentation going back to February. Patricia's fingers paused over her keyboard. She looked up at me, then back at her screen, then at me again with an expression I couldn't quite read. Honey, she said, leaning closer to the window and lowering her voice, can you wait right here for just a moment? She disappeared into the back office, returning 2 minutes later with a thick file and a cup of water she passed through the window slot. My hands were shaking badly enough that I nearly dropped it. Sarah Martinez, right? She confirmed, checking my ID again. When I nodded, she sat down heavily in her chair. Miss Martinez, I need to tell you something, and I want you to stay calm, okay? My heart hammered against my ribs. Had Marcus somehow gotten here first? Had he filed something against me? You're not the first person to file against Marcus Chen, Patricia said carefully. In fact, you're the 7th. The words hit me like ice water. 7th? 7 women in 3 years. The most recent was just 6 weeks ago, a Jennifer Walsh. Before her was Amanda Rodriguez in March, Lisa Thompson last December. She trailed off, watching my face. I'm not supposed to share this information, but honey, I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never seen a pattern quite like this. I set the water cup down because I couldn't trust my hands anymore. 7 women. All with similar stories. All with extensive documentation. All terrified. Patricia glanced around, then leaned even closer. The thing is, individual restraining orders only go so far. But if y'all were to coordinate, if someone were to compile all this evidence together. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. My mind was already racing ahead to the implications. 7 women meant 7 sets of evidence. 7 testimonies. 7 chances to prove a pattern of predatory behavior that no judge could ignore. I can't give you their contact information, Patricia continued, but I can tell you that Jennifer Walsh works at the Starbucks on 5th Street, and she mentioned she'd be willing to talk if anyone else came forward. She paused meaningfully. Just in case you happen to need coffee later. I filled out my paperwork in a daze, my hands steadier now than they'd been all morning. As I signed my name at the bottom of the form, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. This was about stopping Marcus before there was an 8th victim, a 9th, a 10th. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. But for the first time in months, it didn't feel crushing. It felt powerful. The Starbucks on 5th Street was busier than I expected at 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. I ordered a medium coffee I didn't want and asked the barista, a college-aged guy with paint-stained fingers, if Jennifer was working. Jen's on her break, he said, nodding toward a corner table where a woman with short auburn hair sat hunched over a laptop. She'll be back in 10. I approached her table like I was walking through a minefield. Jennifer Walsh? She looked up, and I saw my own haunted expression reflected in her green eyes. The recognition was instant. We both carried the same invisible weight, the same hypervigilance that came from months of looking over our shoulders. You're here about Marcus, she said. It wasn't a question. I sat down across from her, my hands wrapped around my coffee cup for warmth. The court clerk said you might be willing to talk. I filed my restraining order this morning. Jennifer's laugh was bitter. Number 7. I heard there might be more. She closed her laptop and really looked at me for the first time. How long? 3 months. You? 5 months of active harassment, but he'd been watching me for longer. I worked at the Barnes & Noble on campus when we met. He bought 17 books over 2 weeks, always when I was working, always asking for recommendations. She shuddered. I thought it was cute at first. My stomach clenched. He did the coffee shop routine with me. Same order every day for 3 weeks. Vanilla latte, extra hot, no foam. I was so flattered by the attention. The gifts started small, right? Jennifer's voice was barely audible over the espresso machine's hissing. Flowers at work, then showing up at places you'd mentioned, then the texting. 63 texts in one night, I whispered. When I didn't respond fast enough to the first one. Jennifer reached into her purse and pulled out a small notebook, its pages filled with dates and times written in careful handwriting. I started documenting everything after he showed up at my sister's wedding. A wedding I never told him about, at a venue I'd only mentioned to 3 people. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. He knew things about my schedule that I hadn't shared with anyone. My yoga class got moved to Thursday nights, and somehow he knew to be waiting in the parking lot. Amanda, the one who filed in March, she works at the credit union downtown. I found her through Facebook after I got her last name from, well, let's just say I have a friend who works at the courthouse. Jennifer's eyes hardened. Marcus had opened 3 different accounts there over 6 months. 3 accounts he never used, just so he could see Amanda twice a week. My hands started shaking again. He opened a gym membership at my gym. I saw the welcome email on his phone when he was showing me some picture. The date was 2 days after our first coffee. We need to find the others, Jennifer said firmly. All of them. Because I guarantee you there's more we don't know. More women, more tactics, more proof that this isn't just harassment, it's a systematic pattern. She pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. I've been keeping a list of everything I remember him mentioning about other women. Names, places, details that seemed random at the time but make sense now. I leaned forward. What kind of details? Like how he knew exactly how to bypass the security system at Lisa Thompson's apartment complex. He mentioned it once, said something about helping a friend move. But Lisa Thompson, that's victim number 4, she lives in the riverfront complex. The full scope of what we were dealing with hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just a man who couldn't handle rejection. This was someone who had turned stalking into an art form. There's something else, Jennifer said, her voice dropping even lower. Something I haven't told anyone, not even the police. She glanced around the coffee shop before continuing. 2 weeks before I filed the restraining order, I got a call from a blocked number. Woman's voice, older, maybe 40s. She said she'd heard through a mutual friend that I was having Marcus troubles and that I should be very, very careful. My blood went cold. What did she say exactly? She said Marcus had a type. Brunettes, mid-20s, works in retail or food service, drives a small car, lives alone or with one roommate maximum. She said she'd been watching him for 2 years, documenting his patterns. Jennifer's hands were trembling now. She said there were more of us than the court records showed. More victims who didn't report. More victims who tried to report but couldn't make it stick. She mentioned a girl named Rachel who moved to Portland after 6 months of harassment. Another one, Kelly, who transferred colleges rather than deal with campus police who didn't take it seriously. Jennifer pulled out her phone. I've been trying to find that woman who called me, but it's like she doesn't exist. My mind raced. What if she's victim number 1? What if she's been tracking him this whole time, watching him move from target to target? That's exactly what I think. Jennifer opened her laptop again, revealing a spreadsheet that made my stomach drop. She'd created a timeline going back 3 years, with columns for victim names, incident dates, and Marcus's methods. Look at this pattern. I studied the screen. The intervals between victims weren't random, they were calculated. Marcus would typically spend 2 to 3 months escalating with one victim before moving to the next, but he never fully stopped monitoring the previous ones. He'd maintain low-level surveillance while ramping up his focus on someone new. Jesus, Jennifer. This is... I couldn't finish the sentence. Professional level stalking, she completed grimly. And look at the gaps here, February to April last year, and again in September. Those are months where we don't have documented victims, which means either he was between targets or there are women who haven't come forward yet. Jennifer nodded. I think our mysterious phone caller has been building a case for years. The question is why she's staying in the shadows. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, * coffee shop on 5th Street. You're not being careful enough. He knows you're there, *. I showed Jennifer the message, and she went pale. We need to leave. Now. Wait, I said, screenshotting the number. This might be her, the woman who called you. Before Jennifer could respond, my phone rang. Same unknown number. I answered on speaker. Hello? Sarah Martinez. The voice was crisp, controlled. Definitely the same woman Jennifer had described. You and Jennifer need to walk to the back exit immediately. Don't look around, don't act suspicious, just walk. Who are you? I demanded. Someone who made the mistake of thinking a restraining order would stop Marcus Chin 3 years ago. Someone who's been documenting every move he's made since then, waiting for enough victims to come forward to build an unbreakable case. Her voice hardened. Marcus is parked across the street in a silver Honda Civic. He's been there for 12 minutes, which means he followed one of you. Jennifer and I exchanged terrified glances. We'd been so focused on finding each other that we hadn't considered Marcus might be watching us coordinate. My name is Diana Walsh, yes, Jennifer, I'm your cousin's friend from law school. And I'm about to become your best weapon against Marcus Chin. But first, you need to get out of there before he decides to make this confrontation public. As we gathered our things with forced casualness, Diana's voice continued in my ear, there aren't 7 victims, ladies. As of this week, there are 12 that I've confirmed, and probably more. It's time to stop playing defense. The back alley behind the coffee shop smelled like dumpster grease and rain, but it felt like the safest place in the world. Jennifer and I pressed ourselves against the brick wall while Diana's voice continued through my phone speaker. Are you somewhere secure? Diana asked. We're in the alley behind the building, Jennifer whispered, though I couldn't understand why we were whispering when Diana was on speakerphone. Good. Stay there for exactly 4 minutes, then Jennifer, you walk to your car alone. Sarah, you wait another 3 minutes, then take a side street to the municipal parking garage. Don't go straight home, both of you drive to Target on Elm Street and shop for 20 minutes before going anywhere else. My head was spinning. How do you know so much about counter-surveillance? Diana's laugh was grim. Because I spent 8 months learning everything I could about how Marcus operates. I hired a private investigator, cost me $3,400 that I didn't have, and I've been building profiles on every woman he's targeted. Jennifer checked her watch. You said 12 victims. Who are the others? Rachel Morrison moved to Portland in October 2021, that was his first victim that I know of. Then Kelly Jean transferred from state to University of Oregon in spring 2022. There's a Maria Santos who filed a police report but was told they couldn't do anything without more evidence. Diana paused. And as of last week, I've identified 3 more women who haven't filed anything official yet. The number hit me like a physical weight. 15 women? Potentially more. Marcus has refined his selection process over 3 years. He's not random, Sarah. He studies social media, he learns schedules, he identifies women who fit specific vulnerability profiles. Her voice turned clinical. Single, living alone or with minimal family support in the area, working jobs with predictable schedules, active on Instagram but with privacy settings that aren't tight enough. I thought about my own Instagram account, how I posted photos from my regular coffee shop, tagged my gym location, shared stories about working late shifts at the boutique. I'd essentially created a blueprint for my own stalking. The woman who called you, Jennifer, that was me calling from a burner phone. I've been tracking each of you through public records, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Diana's voice softened slightly. I know how paranoid this all sounds, but Marcus isn't just dangerous, he's methodical. And he's escalating. What do you mean escalating? Jennifer asked. Rachel Morrison, victim number 1, she filed a police report in Portland 2 weeks ago. Marcus showed up at her workplace there. He's never traveled to follow a former victim before. The line crackled as Diana took a breath. Lisa Thompson, victim number 4, had someone break into her apartment last month. Nothing was stolen, but her laptop had been accessed and her browser history was cleared. My stomach dropped. He's going back to previous victims? While maintaining surveillance on current ones. The restraining orders aren't stopping him, they're just making him more careful about leaving evidence. Diana's voice hardened. But here's what Marcus doesn't know. I've been coordinating with a detective in the county prosecutor's office. Detective Rosa Martinez, and yes, Sarah, she might be a distant relative. I haven't confirmed that yet. Jennifer grabbed my arm. Time. I need to go. As Jennifer walked toward the mouth of the alley, Diana continued, Detective Martinez specializes in stalking cases, and she's been frustrated by the lack of interconnected evidence. Individual restraining orders create separate case files, but if we can present this as a pattern of criminal behavior across multiple victims, it becomes a felony stalking case. I finished, remembering something from a crime podcast I'd listened to obsessively during my worst sleepless nights. Exactly. But we need all 12 confirmed victims to coordinate testimony. Some of these women are scared, some have tried to move on, and some don't even realize they're part of a larger pattern. Diana paused. Maria Santos thinks her harassment was random bad luck. Kelly Jean convinced herself that transferring schools solved the problem. I watched Jennifer reach her car safely, then started my own countdown. What do you need from me? I need you to help me contact the others. I need you to be brave enough to share your story 12 times over, to women who might not believe you at first. Diana's voice intensified. And I need you to trust me when I tell you that the next few weeks are going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but they're also going to be the thing that finally stops Marcus Chen from destroying another woman's life. 3 minutes were up. As I walked toward the side street, I realized I was no longer shaking. When do we start? I asked. Tonight. Amanda Rodriguez gets off work at 9 p.m., and she has no idea what she's walking into. Amanda Rodriguez worked at a 24-hour diner called Mel's on the outskirts of town, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that could strip paint. Diana had given me Amanda's schedule, her car description, and a warning that she was the most skeptical of all the victims about getting involved in drama. I sat in my Honda in the employee parking lot at 8:47 p.m., rehearsing my opening line for the dozenth time. Through the window, I could see Amanda moving between tables, petite, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, the same hyper-aware posture I recognized in myself. She checked the parking lot every time she passed the window facing the street. At exactly 9:03 p.m., she emerged from the side door, keys already in hand, moving quickly toward a beat-up blue Toyota. I got out of my car, and she froze. Amanda Rodriguez? I called softly. My name is Sarah Martinez. I filed a restraining order against Marcus Chen this morning, and I think we need to talk. Her entire body went rigid. I don't know what you're talking about. He sent you 847 text messages over 6 weeks, I said, repeating the detail Diana had shared. He knew your work schedule better than your manager did. Stop. Amanda's voice cracked. Just stop talking. She fumbled with her car door, but her hands were shaking too badly to get the key in the lock. I approached slowly, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. Amanda, there are at least 12 of us. 12 women. This morning I thought I was alone, but 12? The word came out as barely a whisper. A woman named Diana Walsh has been tracking Marcus for 3 years. She has evidence that he's been systematically stalking women, and she thinks we can stop him if we work together. Amanda leaned against her car, suddenly looking exhausted. Diana Walsh. Short blonde hair, scar on her left hand? My heart jumped. You've met her? She came to my work 6 weeks ago. Ordered coffee and pie, left me a note with her phone number written on the receipt. Amanda pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. I never called her. I was trying to pretend it was over. It's not over for any of us, I said gently. Marcus has been going back to previous victims. Breaking into apartments, showing up at new jobs, even following someone to Portland. Amanda's face went white. Breaking into apartments? Lisa Thompson. Last month. Nothing stolen, but someone had accessed her laptop. I watched Amanda's expression change. Amanda, what happened? 2 weeks ago, she whispered. I came home from a double shift, and my apartment felt wrong. Nothing missing, but my bedroom smelled like that cologne he wore. That expensive stuff, Tom Ford something. She wrapped her arms around herself. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. My blood went cold. Did you report it? And tell them what? That my apartment smelled like my ex-boyfriend's cologne? That I had a feeling someone had been there? Amanda laughed bitterly. The same cops who told me restraining orders are just pieces of paper and I should consider moving if I felt unsafe? I pulled out my phone and called Diana. She answered on the first ring. Sarah? How did it go with Amanda? Diana, Amanda thinks Marcus broke into her apartment 2 weeks ago. The silence stretched for so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Diana's voice came back, tight with controlled fury. Amanda, are you there? Can you hear me? I'm here, Amanda said quietly. I need you to think carefully. Was anything moved? Even slightly? A drawer that wasn't quite closed, books in a different order, anything? Amanda closed her eyes. My jewelry box. I keep it organized a specific way, and the earrings were mixed up. I thought maybe I'd rushed when I was getting ready for work. Amanda, listen to me very carefully, Diana said. Marcus installed tracking software on Lisa Thompson's laptop. If he was in your apartment, he had time to install cameras, tracking devices, software on any electronics you own. Her voice hardened. We need to get you somewhere safe tonight, and we need to sweep your apartment professionally. I can't afford, Amanda started. I can, I interrupted, surprising myself. Diana, how much does something like that cost? For a full electronic sweep? About $800. But I know someone who'll do it for half that if we explain the situation. Amanda was crying now, quiet tears that she wiped away angrily. This isn't fair. I did everything right. I documented everything, I filed the order, I moved to a new apartment complex with security cameras. Security cameras Marcus has probably figured out how to avoid, Diana said grimly. Amanda, I need to tell you both something. I got a call an hour ago from Detective Martinez. Marcus Chen was arrested 3 months ago in Austin, Texas for criminal trespassing. The charges were dropped, but guess what the address was? My stomach sank. Another victim? A woman named Christina Walsh, no relation to me or Jennifer, different Walsh. She never filed a restraining order because Marcus convinced her building management that he was her boyfriend and had locked himself out. Diana's voice was ice cold now. He spent 4 hours in her apartment before she came home. 4 hours, ladies. Think about what someone can accomplish in 4 hours with unrestricted access to your entire life. Amanda slid down the side of her car until she was sitting on the asphalt, her head in her hands. How many more are there, Diana? How many women don't even know they're victims yet? That's what we're going to find out, Diana replied. Christina Walsh is driving up from Austin tomorrow. She's bringing evidence that's going to change everything. The motel room Diana had booked for Amanda was the kind of place that rented by the hour, with thin walls and a neon sign that flickered between VA and ANSI. But it was paid for in cash, registered under a fake name, and most importantly, it was somewhere Marcus had never been. Diana met us there at 10:30 p.m. with a duffel bag full of equipment that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Sweep your phone first, Diana instructed Amanda, pulling out what looked like a modified radio scanner. Turn it completely off, then back on. I need to see if there are any unknown processes running. While Diana worked, I sat on the scratchy comforter and called Jennifer. She answered before the first ring finished. Sarah? How did it go? Marcus has been breaking into apartments, I said without preamble. Amanda's place 2 weeks ago, Lisa's last month. Diana thinks he's installing surveillance equipment. The silence on Jennifer's end was deafening. Finally, Jennifer? You still there? My laptop, she whispered. Last month, my laptop started running slower. The fan was constantly running like it was overworked. I took it to that computer repair place on campus, and they said there was some kind of background process they couldn't identify, so they wiped the hard drive. Diana looked up from Amanda's phone, her face grim. Jennifer, what's your address? Why? Because you're not sleeping there tonight either. 20 minutes later, Jennifer arrived at the motel with an overnight bag and an expression of barely controlled panic. Diana had finished her preliminary scan of Amanda's phone and laptop, both were clean, but that didn't mean much. Here's what we know, Diana said, spreading printed photos across the small table. Marcus Chen has escalated beyond psychological harassment into active home invasion. He's not just watching anymore, he's infiltrating. The photos showed apartment building layouts, security camera blind spots, and what looked like professional surveillance equipment. Where did you get these? I asked. Private investigator I hired found them in Marcus's car when he photographed the license plates of everyone parked near Jennifer's workplace last week. Diana pointed to a photo of a tiny device the size of a shirt button. Voice-activated recording device. 48-hour battery life, can be hidden anywhere, transmits to a receiver up to 500 feet away. Amanda wrapped the thin motel blanket around her shoulders. You think he's been listening to our conversations? In our own homes? I think Marcus Chen has turned stalking into a full-time occupation, Diana replied. Christina Walsh, the victim from Austin, is bringing documentation that Marcus had keys made to her apartment. Professional copies, not amateur lock-picking. Someone taught him or he taught himself advanced surveillance techniques. My phone buzzed with a text from my roommate Chloe, *K, weird question, but did you give someone else a key to our place? I came home and the deadbolt was unlocked but the handle lock was still locked. That's backwards from how you usually do it, *. I showed the message to Diana, and she immediately started packing up her equipment. We're getting you a room here too, Sarah. Right now. I need to warn Chloe. Text her to pack a bag and meet us at the McDonald's on Highway 9. Tell her it's an emergency but don't mention Marcus. Diana was moving with military precision now. Jennifer, call your roommate too. Anyone who lives with any of Marcus's victims is potentially at risk. As I typed frantically to Chloe, Jennifer was already on the phone. Becca, I need you to listen carefully and not ask questions. Pack clothes for 3 days and meet me at McDonald's on Highway 9 in 30 minutes. Something's happened and it's not safe at the apartment. Diana looked at both of us. Christina Walsh's evidence includes photos of Marcus's bedroom. He has a wall covered with surveillance photos of 15 different women. Detailed schedules, route maps to work and school, copies of apartment keys labeled with addresses. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. And there's a calendar marked with dates and the word escalation written in red ink. Tomorrow's date is circled. The room went completely silent except for the broken air conditioner cycling on and off. What happens tomorrow? Amanda asked. That's what we're going to find out, Diana said, checking her watch. Because Christina Walsh isn't just driving up here to share evidence. She's bringing the phone number of victim number 16, who Marcus started targeting last week. The McDonald's parking lot at 11:47 p.m. looked like a support group meeting for trauma victims. Chloe sat in her Jeep next to mine, gripping a travel mug of coffee with white knuckles while I explained why she couldn't go home. Jennifer's roommate Becca had arrived 10 minutes earlier, her face cycling between confusion and fear as Jennifer filled her in on 3 months of hell she'd never known about. So this Marcus guy has been watching our apartment? Chloe asked for the third time. And you think he has a key? The deadbolt being unlocked is his signature, Diana explained, leaning against my car. Christina documented the same pattern in Austin. He locks the door the way he would lock it, not the way his victims typically do it. It's subconscious muscle memory that exposes him. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I was expecting this. Sarah, this is Christina Walsh. I'm about 20 minutes out, but we have a problem. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying or screaming. I got a call from the victim in Austin, the new one, number 16. Her name is Taylor Kim, she's 19, and Marcus escalated tonight. My stomach dropped. What do you mean escalated? He approached her directly. First time he's ever made face-to-face contact during the active stalking phase. Christina's voice shook. She was leaving her dorm around 10 p.m., and he was waiting by her car. Told her they needed to talk about their relationship and that he'd been very patient with her playing hard to get. Diana grabbed the phone. Christina, did she report it? Is she somewhere safe? Campus security took a report, but they treated it like a boyfriend dispute. She's locked in her dorm room with her roommate, but Diana. Christina's voice broke. He knew things about her childhood that she's never told anyone. Her middle school nickname, the name of her first dog, details about her parents' divorce that she's never posted anywhere online. The parking lot suddenly felt exposed, too bright under the fluorescent lights. I scanned the perimeter, looking for silver Honda Civics or any car that had been there too long. How could he know those things? Jennifer asked. Because Marcus has moved beyond social media stalking, Diana said grimly. He's accessing personal records, possibly through identity theft, or... She paused, and I could hear her thinking. Christina, does Taylor work anywhere? Part-time job, work-study program? She works at the campus bookstore. Why? Because I think Marcus is using employment applications to gather personal information. Background check authorizations, emergency contacts, previous addresses. Diana started pacing. Think about what you put on job applications: mother's maiden name, childhood address, high school graduation year. All the same information used for password recovery questions. Chloe spoke up from her car. Sarah, didn't you say he knew about your yoga class schedule changing? How would a job application tell him that? The realization hit me like ice water. He's not just breaking into apartments. He's accessing our email accounts. Diana stopped pacing. Say that again. My yoga studio sends schedule changes by email. My bank sends notifications when I use my debit card. My phone company sends usage summaries. I felt sick. If Marcus has access to my email account, he knows everywhere I go, everything I buy, everyone I communicate with. And everyone you communicate with, Diana repeated slowly, includes other victims comparing notes. The silence stretched between us as the implications sank in. Christina's voice came through the speaker. You think he knows about tonight? About us coordinating? Before anyone could answer, Amanda's phone lit up with a notification. She glanced at it and went white. What is it? Jennifer asked. Amanda held up her phone with a shaking hand. Facebook notification, Marcus Chin wants to send you a message. Don't open it, Diana snapped, but Amanda was already reading. Tell Diana I said hello, Amanda whispered. And let Sarah know I'm impressed by her initiative. See you all very soon. Diana was already pulling equipment out of her bag. Everyone turn off your phones. Now. Pull the batteries if you can. She looked up at the McDonald's sign, then at the gas station across the street, calculating sight lines. He's watching us right now. Chloe's voice was barely audible. How is that possible? Because Marcus Chin isn't just a stalker anymore, Diana said, scanning the parking lot with professional intensity. He's become a domestic terrorist, and we just declared war. A car engine started somewhere in the darkness beyond the restaurant, but I couldn't see headlights. Christina's voice crackled through my phone one last time before I powered it down. I'm pulling into the lot now. White Honda CRV. But there's a silver sedan that's been following me for the last 5 miles. The silver sedan materialized from the shadows like something out of a nightmare, its headlights cutting through the McDonald's parking lot at exactly 12:23 a.m. Christina's white CRV pulled into the space next to mine, but the sedan continued past, slow enough for me to catch a glimpse of the driver. Marcus Chin. Staring straight at me through his passenger window with the kind of calm confidence that made my blood freeze. Everyone stay in your cars, Diana commanded, but her voice carried across the parking lot because we all had our windows down, our phones dead, our normal means of communication severed. Do not get out. Do not make eye contact. The sedan completed a slow circle of the parking lot, Marcus's window now down, his left elbow casually resting on the doorframe like he was out for a pleasant evening drive. As he passed Jennifer's car, he raised his right hand in a small wave. Christina had gone completely still in her driver's seat, her hands frozen on the steering wheel. Through her windshield, I could see her mouth moving. She was either praying or talking herself through a panic attack. He's not stopping, Becca whispered from Jennifer's passenger seat. Why isn't he stopping? Diana had pulled what looked like a professional camera from her bag and was photographing Marcus's license plate, his face, the exact timestamp on her digital watch. Because he's not here to confront us, she said, never lowering the camera. He's here to let us know he's in control. The sedan completed its circuit and pulled into a parking space at the gas station across the street, close enough to watch us, far enough away to avoid trespassing charges if anyone called the police. Marcus turned off his engine but left his headlights on, pointed directly at our cluster of cars. This is psychological warfare, Diana continued, switching to what looked like a telephoto lens. He wants us to know that coordinating doesn't make us safer, it makes us predictable. Christina finally moved, rolling down her window just enough to speak. I have something in my car that changes everything, she said, her voice barely audible. But I can't get it out while he's watching. What kind of something? Diana asked, still photographing Marcus across the street. A recording. Marcus doesn't know I have it, but when he was in my apartment for those 4 hours, I had a nanny cam hidden in my bedroom that he didn't find. Christina's hands were shaking so badly I could see her car trembling. 4 hours of footage of him going through my personal belongings, taking photos of my documents, and making phone calls. My heart jumped. Phone calls to who? That's the thing. He called someone and said, I need background checks on 6 more. Then he rattled off full names, addresses, and social security numbers. Christina glanced toward the gas station where Marcus sat motionless in his car. Sarah Martinez was the first name on his list. The parking lot felt like it was tilting. When was this recording made? March 15th. 3 weeks before you filed your restraining order. Christina's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. He's been planning your harassment since before you even knew he existed. Diana lowered her camera, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely rattled. Christina, who else was on that list? All of you. Plus 2 names I didn't recognize, Emma Rodriguez and Michelle Thompson. And one more name that made me drive straight here instead of waiting until tomorrow. Christina took a shuddering breath. Detective Rosa Martinez. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of the gas station's fluorescent lights and the distant sound of late-night traffic on the highway. Diana's face had gone completely white. He's targeting the detective investigating the case? Jennifer asked. Or he's been targeting her all along, and we've been playing into a trap that's bigger than any of us realized, Diana replied. She started repacking her equipment with mechanical precision. Christina, can you get that recording to us without getting out of your car? USB drive in my purse, but... Across the street, Marcus's headlights flashed twice, then went dark. His engine started. He's leaving, Amanda said, but Diana was already shaking her head. No, she said, watching the sedan pull back onto the street. He's moving to phase 2. The sedan's taillights disappeared into the night, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave with him. Diana was right, this felt like a tactical retreat, not a surrender. We need to move, Diana said, already walking toward Christina's car. Different location, somewhere Marcus hasn't had time to scout. Christina handed the USB drive through her barely cracked window, her fingers trembling as Diana took it. There's something else on there. Phone records I pulled from my carrier showing calls made from my apartment during those 4 hours. He used my landline to call 17 different numbers. 17? I echoed, my voice hollow. Potential victims, accomplices, or information sources. Diana pocketed the drive. We'll find out which one we're somewhere secure. Chloe spoke up from her Jeep. My dad owns a storage unit facility on the other side of town. Has an office with Wi-Fi, security cameras, and only one way in or out. He gave me keys for emergencies. That works, Diana said, then addressed all of us. Follow Chloe, but we take 3 different routes. Christina, you go first, take Highway 9 to Elm Street, then circle back through the residential area. Jennifer and Becca, take Main Street through downtown. Sarah and Amanda, come with me via the industrial route near the railroad tracks. As we prepared to caravan across town at nearly 1 a.m., my phone buzzed with one last notification before I powered it back down. Email from an address I didn't recognize, sarahm.boutiquegirl.2024@gmail.com. That was my Instagram handle from 2 years ago, before I changed it for privacy reasons. Diana, I called out, showing her the phone screen. This email address, it's my old social media username. The one I stopped using in 2022. She studied the screen, her jaw tightening. He's not just accessing your current accounts. He's reactivating old ones, probably using password recovery to get into dormant email addresses you forgot you had. The email subject line read, looking forward to our reunion tonight. Don't open it, Diana warned, but the preview text was already visible. Asterisk, the storage facility on Industrial Drive has excellent acoustics. Unit 247. I'll be waiting, asterisk. My blood turned to ice water. He knows where we're going. Chloe went white. That's impossible. I just thought of my dad's place 2 minutes ago. Unless he's been monitoring all of you for longer than we realized, Christina said from her car. The recording I have, one of those phone calls Marcus made was to someone he called the tech guy. He said he needed real-time location tracking on all 7 targets, plus their associates. Diana was already scanning the parking lot again, this time with a tactical intensity that made my skin crawl. He's been tracking our phones even when they're off. Which means... A new voice cut through the night air, amplified and distorted like it was coming through a megaphone. Ladies, you're making this much more complicated than it needs to be. The voice was coming from the gas station across the street, but there was no car there anymore. Just a speaker system mounted on a light pole that definitely hadn't been there an hour ago. Marcus can hear us, Jennifer whispered. Marcus can see you too, the amplified voice continued, and I realized with sick certainty that it was him speaking in real time. Diana Walsh, private investigator license number 4847. Very impressive surveillance equipment you've got there. Sarah Martinez, 247 Oakwood Drive, apartment 3B. Your roommate Chloe makes excellent coffee, by the way. Chloe made a sound like a wounded animal. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus's voice continued, echoing off the empty restaurant walls. You're going to get back in your cars, you're going to go home, and you're going to forget this little vigilante fantasy. Because I know things about each of you that would destroy your lives even faster than I could. Diana raised her camera toward the speaker, and Marcus's laugh crackled through the night air. Detective Rosa Martinez's daughter Emma is a sophomore at State University, he continued. Lives in Hartley Hall, room 304. Beautiful girl. Very trusting. It would be terrible if something happened to her because her mother got too involved in things that don't concern her. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus wasn't just targeting us anymore, he was targeting our families, our friends, anyone who might help us fight back. You have 12 hours to call off your investigation, his voice concluded. After that, the escalation becomes permanent. The speaker went silent, leaving us alone in the parking lot with the weight of knowing that nowhere was safe, no one was beyond his reach, and our war against Marcus Jen had just become a fight for everyone we loved. The 12 hours Marcus had given us felt like 12 minutes. By 6:30 a.m., we'd abandoned the idea of sleep entirely and gathered in Diana's apartment, a fortress-like studio with security cameras, deadbolts on every window, and what looked like a small armory hidden behind a false wall in her closet. Christina's USB drive had revealed horrors none of us were prepared for. The recording showed Marcus methodically photographing Christina's birth certificate, social security card, passport, and medical records. But worse were the 17 phone calls he'd made from her landline, each one captured in crystal-clear audio. Call number 4, Diana said, fast-forwarding through the footage on her laptop. This one's to someone called Mitchell. Marcus's voice filled the small apartment. Mitchell, it's Marcus. I need employment verification calls made to 3 companies. Make it sound like they're applying for apartments, Riverside Apartments, Grove Street Complex, and those new lofts downtown. I need their work schedules, salary information, and emergency contacts. Diana paused the recording. Employment verification scams. He's calling apartment complexes pretending to be employers, and calling employers pretending to be landlords. Both sides give him detailed personal information thinking they're helping with legitimate housing applications. Jennifer sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by printed emails we'd recovered from my compromised accounts. Sarah, look at this. He's been receiving copies of your bank statements for 6 months. Every debit card transaction, every paycheck deposit, every rent payment. I studied the forwarding rules someone had embedded in my Gmail account, so subtle I'd never noticed it. Every email from my bank was automatically forwarded to sarahm.boutiquegirl.2024@gmail.com and then deleted from my inbox. He knows I spent $67 at Target last Tuesday, I said, my voice hollow. He knows I buy lunch from the food truck on Wednesdays because I work late shifts on Tuesdays. He probably knows my menstrual cycle from my pharmacy purchases. Amanda was sitting by the window with binoculars Diana had given her, watching for suspicious vehicles. Movement, she reported. White van, no windows, circling the block for the third time in 20 minutes. Through Diana's security monitor, we could see the van clearly. No license plate on the front, tinted windows, and what looked like antenna equipment mounted on the roof. Electronic surveillance van, Diana said grimly. He's trying to intercept our communications even with the phones off. Christina looked up from the legal documents she'd been reviewing. There's something else on the recording. Call number 11, Marcus talks to someone about the insurance policy. He says, if the Martinez girl becomes a problem, activate the insurance policy on Detective Martinez's daughter. My stomach clenched. What kind of insurance policy? I think Emma Martinez is already being stalked, Christina replied. I think Marcus has someone watching the detective's daughter to keep Detective Martinez from investigating too aggressively. Diana pulled up a new browser window and started typing. Emma Martinez, 19 years old, sophomore at State University. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. Instagram account shows regular posts through last week, then nothing for 5 days. Her last post was from the library at 11:47 p.m. on Tuesday, studying for her psychology midterm. When did we first contact Detective Martinez about coordinating our cases? Jennifer asked. Diana checked her notes. Wednesday morning. Less than 12 hours after Emma's social media went silent. The timing was too precise to be coincidental. Marcus had somehow anticipated our investigation and moved to neutralize the detective's willingness to help us by putting her daughter at risk. We need to call Detective Martinez, I said, reaching for my phone. Absolutely not, Diana snapped. If Emma is being held somewhere, a phone call could trigger Marcus to escalate. We need proof before we involve law enforcement. Amanda stepped back from the window, her face pale. The white van just parked directly across the street. 2 men got out, and they're setting up equipment on the sidewalk. Through the security camera monitor, we could see them clearly now, professional-looking surveillance gear, directional microphones, and what appeared to be signal jamming equipment. He's not just watching us, Diana said, her voice tight with controlled fear. He's isolating us. Cutting off our communications, monitoring our movements, making sure we can't call for help. My phone vibrated with a text message that somehow got through despite our precautions. Emma Martinez says hello. She's very pretty when she sleeps. You have 6 hours left. Attached was a photo that made my blood run cold, a young woman who looked exactly like Detective Martinez, unconscious on what appeared to be a mattress in a basement somewhere, with today's newspaper visible in the corner of the frame. Diana stared at the image, her hands clenched into fists. This isn't stalking anymore, she said quietly. This is kidnapping. And we're the only ones who know Emma Martinez is missing. The white van's equipment was now fully operational, and through Diana's window, I could see one of the men pointing some kind of device directly at her apartment building. Ladies, Diana said, checking her watch as it hit 7:15 a.m., we just became the only thing standing between Emma Martinez and whatever Marcus Chin considers a permanent solution. The basement photograph haunted me as we huddled around Diana's laptop, trying to identify any details that might reveal Emma's location. Christina had enhanced the image using some kind of forensic software, and what we found made everything worse. The newspaper in the corner isn't today's, Christina said, pointing to the date barely visible in the enhanced image. It's from 3 days ago, which means Marcus has been planning this since before we ever met at the coffee shop. Jennifer traced her finger along what looked like a concrete wall behind Emma's unconscious form. Those are cinder blocks, and look at this, there's a small window near the ceiling with bars on it. Basement level, but not completely underground. Amanda had moved away from the window, her face gray with exhaustion and fear. The men outside just brought in more equipment. It looks like they're setting up some kind of command center on the sidewalk. Diana pulled up a property search database on her second laptop. Marcus Chen doesn't own any properties in this county, but Mitchell, the guy from the phone calls, Mitchell Vance owns a rental property on Industrial Drive. Single-story house with a finished basement, built in 1987. That's 12 minutes from here, I said, checking the address on Diana's map. But it could be a trap. Everything is a trap at this point, Diana replied, but she was already packing surveillance equipment into a black backpack. The question is whether we spring Marcus's trap or let Emma Martinez die in that basement while we wait for law enforcement to figure out she's missing. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Detective Martinez herself. Don't answer it, Christina warned, but Diana shook her head. We have to. If we don't, she'll send patrol units to do welfare checks on all of us, and that gives Marcus exactly the police presence he needs to claim we're harassing him. I answered on speakerphone. Detective Martinez? Miss Martinez, I need to ask you some questions about the Marcus Chin case. Can you come to the station this morning? Her voice sounded strained, like she hadn't slept. Detective, when did you last speak to your daughter Emma? The silence stretched for nearly 10 seconds. Why are you asking about my daughter? Because Marcus Chin sent us a photograph of her unconscious in what appears to be a basement location, Diana interrupted, leaning toward my phone. Detective, we think Emma has been kidnapped to prevent you from investigating our case. The sound Detective Martinez made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Emma didn't come home last night, but she's 19, she stays at friends' places, I thought. Her voice broke. She always texts me when she's staying out. Always. Detective, we have evidence that Marcus has been planning this for days, I said. We think we know where she's being held, but we need. The line went dead. Not disconnected, completely dead, like our phone service had been cut off entirely. The jamming equipment, Diana said, staring at the surveillance van through her security monitor. They've cut off all our communications. Amanda was now pressed against the wall beside the window, barely breathing. There are more vehicles arriving. 3 cars just pulled up, and people are getting out with what look like weapons. Through Diana's cameras, I could see them clearly, 6 men in tactical gear, spreading out to surround the apartment building. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was a siege. Marcus isn't giving us 12 hours, Jennifer whispered, her voice barely audible. He's moving to end this right now. Diana pulled a pistol from her hidden wall compartment, checking the ammunition with practiced efficiency. Ladies, we have about 3 minutes before they breach the building. Emma Martinez is going to die in that basement unless we find a way out of here that Marcus hasn't anticipated. The sound of boots on the stairwell outside Diana's door told us our 3 minutes had just become 30 seconds. The sound of boots stopped directly outside Diana's door, but instead of the violent entry we'd expected, someone knocked. 3 sharp, professional raps that somehow felt more terrifying than if they'd just broken the door down. Sarah Martinez, a voice called through the reinforced steel. Not Marcus, someone older, with a slight accent I couldn't place. We need to talk. Emma Martinez has approximately 90 minutes of oxygen left. Diana motioned for absolute silence, but my hands were already shaking so badly I nearly dropped my dead phone. Through the security monitor, I could see the man clearly, 50s, wearing a suit instead of tactical gear, holding what appeared to be a tablet computer. Miss Martinez, I know you can hear me. My name is Detective Frank Morrison, Austin Police Department. I've been tracking Marcus Chen for 18 months, and I'm here to help. Christina went rigid at the mention of Austin PD. That's the detective who told me there wasn't enough evidence for an arrest warrant, she whispered. He said Marcus was just an overzealous admirer. Diana's grip tightened on her weapon. Either he's legitimately here to help, or Marcus has law enforcement connections we didn't know about. The voice continued through the door. I have proof that Marcus Chen has been operating a systematic stalking ring across 3 states, using identity theft and electronic surveillance to target victims. But right now, Emma Martinez is in a sealed room with limited air circulation, and the only person who knows the exact location is currently demanding all evidence against him be destroyed. A tablet slid under the door gap. Somehow Detective Morrison had managed to fit the slim device through the narrow space. On the screen was a video feed showing Emma, awake now, pounding on what appeared to be a sealed metal door, her mouth open in what were obviously screams we couldn't hear. The timestamp shows this is live, I said, studying the corner of the screen. But how do we know you're really police? Because 43 minutes ago, Detective Rosa Martinez called Austin PD requesting any files we had on Marcus Chen. I'm here because Marcus Chen has been using Austin as his base of operations while targeting women in college towns across Texas, Oklahoma, and now here. His voice hardened. And because Emma Martinez isn't his first kidnapping victim. Diana crept closer to the door, weapon still drawn. What do you mean, not his first? Rachel Morrison, the woman who moved to Portland, she didn't move voluntarily. Marcus held her for 6 days in a storage unit outside Austin before releasing her with threats that he'd kill her family if she reported it. Morrison's voice carried the weight of someone delivering news he delivered too many times. Kelly Zhang's college transfer wasn't about harassment. Marcus convinced her university that she'd made credible threats against him, got her expelled, then offered to help her transfer somewhere safe. Jennifer's face had gone completely white. He's been doing this for years. 3 years, 15 confirmed victims, and at least 4 women who've disappeared entirely. Morrison knocked again, gentler this time. Miss Martinez, Marcus is offering a trade. He'll release Emma and disappear permanently if you and the other victims sign non-disclosure agreements and destroy all evidence you've compiled. Through the tablet, we could see Emma's movements becoming more sluggish, her pounding on the metal door less frantic. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m., exactly 90 minutes since Morrison had mentioned her oxygen limit. He's going to kill her anyway, Amanda said flatly. Even if we agree to his terms. Probably, Morrison agreed through the door. But I have 8 officers positioned around the suspected location on Industrial Drive, and Marcus doesn't know we've identified the property. Diana studied the tablet feed, her expression calculating. Detective Morrison, if we open this door, how do we know Marcus's people won't just shoot all of us? Because Marcus Chen needs you alive to sign those NDAs. Dead victims can't legally agree to keep quiet, and he spent too much time building this operation to settle for a murder charge when he could walk away clean. The tablet screen flickered, showing Emma collapsing to her knees, her chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths. We have maybe 60 minutes before she loses consciousness permanently, Morrison said. Ladies, this is your chance to save Emma Martinez and end Marcus Chen's operation. But I need you to trust me, and I need you to move right now. Diana looked at each of us, then slowly moved toward the door. Detective Morrison, if you're lying to us, if this is Marcus's trap, you should know that I've uploaded all our evidence to a cloud server with automatic release protocols. I'm counting on it, he replied. Because Marcus Chen is about to discover that kidnapping a police detective's daughter was the mistake that finally brings down his entire operation. The decision to trust Detective Morrison lasted exactly 37 seconds, the time it took for Diana to unlock her reinforced door and pull it open to reveal not just Morrison, but Marcus Chen standing directly behind him with a gun pressed against the detective's spine. Surprise, Marcus said, his voice carrying that same casual confidence I'd heard through the McDonald's speaker system. Detective Morrison really is Austin PD, and he really has been tracking me for 18 months. What he didn't mention is that I've been tracking him for the last 6. Morrison's face was gray with what looked like a combination of fear and professional humiliation. Ladies, get back inside. This isn't what we planned. Oh, but it's exactly what I planned, Marcus replied, using Morrison's body as a shield while scanning Diana's apartment with obvious appreciation. Very impressive security setup, Diana. Almost professional grade. Too bad you forgot the most basic rule of surveillance, always watch the watcher. Through Diana's security monitors, I could see that the tactical team surrounding the building wasn't there to help us. They were Marcus's people, and we just invited him inside our only safe space. The tablet feed of Emma Martinez is real, Marcus continued, settling into Diana's desk chair like he owned the place. She really is running out of oxygen, and Detective Morrison really does have officers positioned around the Industrial Drive property. What's beautiful is that they're watching an empty house while Emma slowly suffocates in a completely different location. Christina grabbed my arm, her fingernails digging into my skin. Where is she? Closer than you think. Farther than you could reach in time. Marcus checked his watch, an expensive Rolex that I recognized from our coffee shop encounters. Emma has 43 minutes of air left, which gives us plenty of time for me to explain how this is going to work. Diana still had her weapon drawn, but with Morrison positioned as a human shield, she couldn't get a clean shot. What do you want, Marcus? I want you to understand that this was never about harassment or stalking or any of the small-minded labels you've been using. His voice took on an almost professorial tone. This is about power dynamics, social engineering, and the absolutely fascinating ways that fear can be weaponized to control human behavior. He pulled out his own tablet, showing us what appeared to be a live feed of Detective Rosa Martinez sitting in her police station, frantically working her phone while uniformed officers searched files around her. Detective Martinez has no idea her daughter is missing because I've been spoofing Emma's text messages for 4 days, Marcus explained. As far as she knows, Emma is at a friend's house studying for finals. The beautiful irony is that Rosa Martinez is so focused on building a case against me that she hasn't noticed her own daughter's distress signals. Morrison spoke through gritted teeth. The Austin officers will find the real location eventually. Detective Morrison, you've been investigating me for 18 months and you thought I was operating out of a rental house on Industrial Drive. Marcus's laugh was genuinely amused. Emma Martinez is currently in a modified shipping container buried 8 feet underground in a location that won't appear on any property record search. The air circulation system is connected to a timer that I control remotely. He held up his phone, showing us an app interface with a countdown timer, 41 minutes, 17 seconds, 16 seconds, 15 seconds. Here's what's fascinating about countdown timers, Marcus continued. They create artificial urgency that bypasses rational decision-making. You're all so focused on saving Emma Martinez that you haven't asked yourself the obvious question. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. What question? Why would I show you the timer if I actually intended to let it run out? Marcus smiled, and for the first time, I saw something genuinely terrifying behind his eyes. Emma Martinez isn't the victim here, ladies. Emma Martinez is the bait. And you're about to find out what I'm actually hunting. The timer on his phone hit 40 minutes, 52 seconds as my blood turned to ice water. Detective Morrison, Marcus said pleasantly, would you please explain to these ladies why Austin PD has been so interested in their little investigation? Morrison's voice cracked, because you haven't been stalking random women. You've been recruiting them. Morrison's words hit me like a physical blow. Recruiting them for what? Marcus's smile widened as he gestured toward the wall of evidence we'd compiled, photos, documents, timelines, personal information on all his victims spread across Diana's apartment like a twisted shrine. Look around you, Marcus said, his voice taking on that professorial tone again. 7 highly intelligent women, each with specialized skills, each pushed to their absolute breaking point, each willing to break laws and risk their safety to stop me. He paused dramatically. Ladies, you've just spent the last 48 hours demonstrating exactly the kind of resourcefulness and moral flexibility that certain organizations find very valuable. Diana's weapon wavered slightly. What organizations? The kind that need people who can conduct surveillance, compile evidence, coordinate complex operations, and most importantly, people who have absolutely nothing left to lose. Marcus checked his watch again. Private investigation firms, corporate espionage, insurance fraud investigation, divorce cases requiring creative evidence gathering. The pieces started clicking together with horrible clarity. You've been traumatizing women to turn them into criminals, I said, my voice hollow. I've been identifying women with untapped potential and providing them with the motivation to develop those talents, Marcus corrected. Sarah, 48 hours ago you were a boutique sales clerk who'd never broken a law in your life. Today you're coordinating counter-surveillance operations and planning to commit breaking and entering to save a kidnapping victim. Jennifer stood up abruptly. That's insane. No one would hire us based on Diana Walsh, private investigator license 4847, Marcus interrupted, pulling out a file folder. Hired by Mitchell Vance Consulting exactly 6 weeks after her first restraining order against me was filed. Current salary, $73,000 annually, specializing in corporate surveillance and background investigations. Diana's face went completely white. That's impossible. I hired myself. I got my license independently. You got your license using study materials that Mitchell's company sent you anonymously. You passed the exam on your second try because Mitchell arranged for you to receive the answer key 24 hours beforehand. Marcus opened the folder, revealing documents with Diana's signature. You've been working for us for 8 months, Diana. Every case you thought you were taking independently was assigned by Mitchell's network. The countdown timer on his phone showed 36 minutes, 14 seconds, but I was no longer sure Emma Martinez was the real emergency. The other victims, Amanda whispered. Rachel Morrison in Portland, Kelly Zhang who transferred colleges. Rachel works for a firm that specializes in insurance fraud investigation. Kelly Zhang is currently employed by a corporate espionage company in Seattle. Marcus flipped through more documents. Lisa Thompson just accepted a position with a private investigation firm in Denver. Maria Santos is now doing background checks for a high-security dating service. Morrison spoke up, his voice strained. Marcus, this is human trafficking. You're forcing women into criminal activity through psychological manipulation. Detective Morrison, every woman in this room has committed multiple felonies in the last 48 hours entirely by choice, Marcus replied. Hacking email accounts, conducting unauthorized surveillance, breaking into apartments, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Should I continue? My phone, which had been dead for hours, suddenly buzzed with a notification. The screen showed a job application confirmation. Application received, Martinez Investigations, senior associate position, starting salary $68,000. I never applied for any job, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I was remembering the online forms Diana had asked me to fill out for evidence organization purposes. Marcus's timer hit 35 minutes exactly as every phone in the room simultaneously received identical notifications, employment contracts, background check authorizations, and non-disclosure agreements that would legally bind us to his network. Ladies, Marcus said, standing up and straightening his expensive suit, welcome to your new careers. Emma Martinez will be released unharmed as soon as you've all signed your employment paperwork. The trap had been perfect, and we'd walked into it while thinking we were the hunters. The employment contracts sat on Diana's table like death sentences, each one more detailed and legally binding than the last. Marcus's timer showed 32 minutes, 18 seconds when I made the decision that changed everything. I'll sign, I said, reaching for the pen Marcus had placed next to my contract. But first, I want proof Emma is really alive. Video call, not just the feed. Marcus smiled indulgently and tapped his phone. Within seconds, Emma Martinez appeared on his screen, conscious but clearly terrified, in what was definitely an underground concrete room. Emma, tell these ladies you're okay, Marcus instructed. I'm okay, Emma whispered, then added something that made my heart race, but I can hear voices above me. Sounds like my mom. Marcus's expression flickered, the first crack in his composed facade I'd seen. That's impossible. Through Diana's security monitors, I caught a glimpse of movement outside that Marcus couldn't see from his position. Detective Rosa Martinez was across the street with a full SWAT team, not at her desk frantically working phones like Marcus's surveillance had shown us. Marcus, I said, signing my name with deliberate slowness, what if Detective Morrison wasn't the only one tracking you for 18 months? His phone showed Detective Rosa Martinez in her office, but the timestamp in the corner was wrong, off by exactly 6 hours. I'd noticed it earlier but hadn't understood the significance. What if Detective Martinez figured out you were using loop footage to make her think Emma was safe? I continued, still signing. What if she's been feeding you false information through Morrison while her real team located Emma? The sound of boots on stairs echoed through the building again, but this time they were coming from multiple directions. Marcus's tactical team outside wasn't responding to his radio calls anymore. Jennifer, Diana said quietly, never taking her eyes off Marcus, show him what we really uploaded to that cloud server. Jennifer pulled out a laptop that had been hidden under Diana's couch cushions, not the one Marcus had seen us using. We uploaded everything 6 hours ago, Marcus. Not just evidence about the stalking. The screen showed a comprehensive file that made Marcus go completely rigid, corporate documents linking Mitchell Vance Consulting to a human trafficking operation spanning 12 states, financial records showing payments to corrupt law enforcement officials, and most damaging of all, recordings of Marcus detailing his recruitment operation to potential clients. Christina's nanny cam captured more than just you ransacking her apartment, Diana explained, her weapon now trained directly on Marcus as Detective Morrison carefully stepped away from him. It captured you on a video conference call explaining how psychological trauma could be weaponized to create the perfect employees for morally questionable private investigation work. Marcus's phone timer hit 28 minutes, 42 seconds, but the sound of concrete being broken by heavy machinery was already echoing from somewhere nearby. Detective Martinez's voice crackled through Morrison's radio, shipping container located. Emma is conscious and responding. Medical team standing by. The beautiful thing about countdown timers, I said, echoing Marcus's earlier words, is that they work both ways. At exactly 9:47 a.m., Marcus Chen was arrested on charges of human trafficking, kidnapping, conspiracy, identity theft, and racketeering. The Mitchell Vance network collapsed within 72 hours as 17 women across 4 states provided testimony about systematic recruitment through psychological manipulation. Emma Martinez was treated for mild dehydration and released the same day. Detective Rosa Martinez later told me that Emma had never been in real danger, the shipping container had been connected to the building's main air circulation system, and SWAT had been monitoring Marcus's location through Morrison's wire for the final 6 hours of the operation. 6 months later, I testified before a federal grand jury that indicted 43 people connected to Marcus's network. Diana Walsh now runs a legitimate private investigation firm specializing in helping stalking victims, and yes, she offered me a job, which I accepted after she proved her licensing was completely legitimate and independent. The restraining order that started it all was just a piece of paper, but the network of women who came together to stop Marcus Chen became something Marcus never anticipated, a genuine support system that couldn't be controlled, manipulated, or weaponized. 15 victims became 15 survivors, and Marcus Chen will spend the next 25 years in federal prison learning what it feels like to be watched constantly without any hope of escape. Justice, it turns out, has excellent timing.